and we've been in the space for a long time. We work from companies all the way from large startups that have scaled out to venture scale, all the way to large corporations, and even bootstrap companies that have been really successful. And then in the last 2-3 years, I think we've took a really kind of deep look into Web3 and the different projects that have been being built in this space, taking a look on the way design has been a part of the identity. I think it's been a really core part of the best companies' identities, and that's something that we've really been interested in working in. So when the opportunity came that we could kind of come in as a partner and think through all of these UI, UX, and branding concerns, that I think will elevate everything that's going on with the product. We're really excited to dig in. And so we're just getting started. I'd say the last 2 weeks has been our first, kind of effort to get the ball rolling, and it's been going really well. And I think that everyone will start to see this sort of matriculate out onto the things that you use in the next, couple months. And so really always open to feedback too. And I know that this is a very feedback-driven community. So feel more than free to let us know what you think. We won't be offended, and we'll always try to kind of stay ahead of, the things that are desired from the community first and foremost.
Okay, perfect. And maybe if you could just speak to UI, UX, its importance, just kind of lay out why it is that we're doing what we're doing and why we're taking the approach that we're taking. Just if you could just maybe say a couple of words there, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective and just our experience, working in UI UX for so long, and even as a software development company in the past, we've always been UI UX driven. And the reason is, the way that a project is presented, I think, is such a significant, aspect of just essentially the impression that it leaves on viewers and users, and also the success of it long term. There hasn't been a strong track record of hyper successful projects that hasn't undergone some significant level of sophisticated UI UX and branding. So it's about standing apart in the market, right? Like as this scales up and grows and looks to stand out against other people, either competitively in the same industry, in the same vertical, or just general, the Web3 sort of market, having a really strong brand identity, I think, is going to be a key, so people can recognize and understand, this is something significant, this is something unique, this is something that will have lasting brand presence that people will remember. And, Web3 community right now is large, but still tight-knit enough that I think having a significant brand elevates you, and gives you something to hold on to, gives you something easier to market, makes it easier to adopt users because they recognize the branding. And on the UI UX side, this has been important for years, from the day one of technology all the way from Web 2 now into Web 3. Having a really great UI UX is the key to getting people to continue utilizing the applications that we build here, right? Like, I think that no matter how functional and how useful the utility around these applications are, having it look and feel easy to use, easy to navigate, will bring on that strong base of users that might not be hyper technical or highly concentrated in Web3, right? There's such a migration of new users into Web3 every day, and those are people that they don't, they might get scared off on design or a presentation that's too inclusive to people that are just very technical and understand what's going on already, right? Being able to guide people through UI UX, allow them to more easily utilize, the tools that are being built in these applications, allow them to scale, within these, these environments and the new applications that are being built in the roadmap. I think that's, one of the most fundamentally important things behind UI UX, especially in this industry where, I think traditionally a lot of products and projects have been a little inclusive to the existing community. And I think as you look to pull in more and more people into the community, UI UX is going to be the number one thing that's going to make them realize this is something that I'm comfortable with, I want to learn more about, and things like that.
Got it. Yeah, like what I really hear is there's an expectation, right? Especially in the Web 2 world. Like back, and I go way back. I grew up analog without internet, and then as I got older, internet came in. So I've been able to see the internet go through all of its iterations. And so, back in the day, Yahoo was like the go-to search engine long before there was Google, and before that we had Alta Vista, and then people were able to start kind of building their own websites, and we had built like website builders like GeoCities and all of this stuff. And as the space has grown, as the technology has advanced, as server speeds are up and processing power is, X'd over 100 times in the last 20 plus years, we now, users, especially new users coming into any space, have an expectation of usability. And when we get into an application, or we go out and we find a piece of software that may be free or inexpensive or very cheap, it's a cheap competitor to something else out there that might be a professional grade tool, we start to see the differences between something that is not well thought through and something that is well thought through. And if we want to attract, like my parents, for instance, who are not very technical, well, then we need to be focusing on their expectations of what a functioning web application looks like, right? Because inside of Web3, it's very different. Raul can speak to designing on a Web3 interface versus designing over an HTML. But putting those together, right? Bridging Web 2, Web 3, and giving a user experience to everybody that's on your platform or any of the tools that you're developing, I believe should be the focus of all crypto companies right now. Making sure that we are preparing ourselves to bring in folks that are not technically savvy. We need these rails to be relatively invisible. We need things to be happening in a way that they don't need to think about it, just like we don't think about the inner workings of the internet. And currently, we're not there. So what do we do, Nafis, as far as starting to manage people's expectations? Like, what are some possible options that might be available to us when it comes to designing this stuff out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of the approachability aspect. I've always said when I work with startups and they're starting to think about design, I always say it's never too early. And this is more true than ever. You talk about your parents who, 5-10 years ago, when people would talk about their parents from a technology perspective, it would more so be, oh, well, my parents are, ancient, so they don't know how to utilize technology. Well, things have changed. And not only do our parents and, outliers within the, kind of core group of technologists in this world, not only do they utilize technology, they utilize the best design technologies, right? They're utilizing apps every day on their phone, or even just iOS itself that is, had literally millions to billions of dollars invested into tech. And so, I think that that's the number one thing. When you think about why are we investing in design in the first and foremost here, it's because of that. It's because you don't want to come out the gates with a presentation that is basically going to scare people off, especially, the edges of people like outside of technology that we're trying to bring in, because they're used to seeing good design, right? That's what they've been trained to see now, and they know what bad design is intuitively. Even my dad, for better or for worse, knows bad UX. He just doesn't know maybe that's called UX. In terms of setting expectations, I think that, when we think about the roadmap ahead of us with UI UX, it's an iterative process. And that's the number one thing that everyone should realize, right? When we come out the gate with a brand, when we come out the gate with a UI UX around the application, it might not be everyone's favorite presentation. I think some people will love it. Some people will like it. Some people might not love it, right? And I think that understanding that design is one of the most iterative processes in product and in technology is a really important thing for the community to remember, right? Bring forward your feedback and understand that things will be grown over time, and version 5 will always be better than version 1. So we're going to come out the gate with our best UI UX, but it's going to be, ultimately in version 1, right? It's not a completion point, it's a starting point, and it's going to look good, it's going to feel good, but having that patience to provide that feedback, help us build, help us design, and see your feedback kind of grow into an amazing product experience from a really good one, from version 1 to version whatever, that's, I think, expectation that, we have on the community, and the community, I think, should understand that's how we're thinking about it too, right? So hopefully you guys love what you see as this kind of comes out the gates, but also understand that we're committing towards a long-term process of making this, stand out and making it, kind of grow based off feedback, and not just, make a decision that's here to stay because we liked it the first time we looked at it.
Perfect. Yeah, and what I want to take from that is a word that you brought up, which is patience, right? Like being patient with the process. We're all very much in a hurry. We want to see what Audicity can become and will become, right? And there's a patience that comes with a project like this, because if you don't have patience, it will be a very uncomfortable experience, right? So we are trying to grow a community from nothing, and do that through a grassroots efforts in the moment of a really difficult, challenging market, using a word like node, where nodes currently are not very popular. Like we have a huge uphill battle ahead of us, so much so that we're discussing various ways that we can reshape even the thinking of people around this space. Right, so these things are going to take time. So Waker and their team are going to iterate their best V1, right, on top of what we already have running, which is our MVP, minimum viable product, right? So the minimum viable product went live, it's functional, and it works. And now we're going to step in and say, how do we take it to the next version, a fully functioning out of beta V1, complete with brand and first pass UI UX. And that is going to take some time. Therefore, patience, right? We have the funding that we have, which has come from the community. We do not have the funding to put a full marketing department in place and a business development department in place and an HR department in place and hire virtual assistants and assistants for Simon and Raul and everything. We don't have that. We have a skeleton crew of a handful of people that are feverishly working in order to build this thing out. And we have a lot of things to manage while we do it, right? Marketing is just one piece of that. We have to manage expectations. We have to manage our own expectations of what a community is and what a community does. And we're all going to learn and grow on this journey together, but we're going to do it the way that a true startup should. And we're doing it the way that a true startup that's grassroots funded should, which is very, very different. So it's a new conversation over here at Audicity. It's a conversation that currently, as far as I know, aside from some idealism in the space on Twitter or what have you, as far as I know, it currently doesn't exist. An organization willing to take on misconceptions about what is and what is not possible around community inside of DeFi, right? That's a big deal. And it's a big mission. And there's a lot that we want to do inside of it, right? And so this UI UX conversation is that first piece. Well, why? Well, because UX UI, whether you realize it or not, is the first thing that any new user to our ecosystem is going to see. And if we're saying that we are software developers, well, we better show that we know how to develop, correct? Right? Like that's a fair assumption. So there's a lot. So we're asking for patience from you. We're asking for patience from ourselves in order to build tools and an ecosystem and a thriving community that's actually fun to be a part of, and that's building something worthwhile, right? So with that said, Nafis, do you have anything else to add from what I went on to there? Kind of.
No, I think nothing concrete. I mean, I totally echo those statements, though, and I really do feel like
And then he was gone.
And then he was gone. He's actually here. Somehow he got off stage. Raul, can you add him back to the stage? Or did we lose our admin and that's what happened?
I don't think so. I think Raul is about.
No, I'm back. I'm not sure what happened, honestly. But yeah, no, I was just echoing what you're saying, Dave. I mean, I think that the biggest thing that I can think about, like, I think everyone can kind of intuitively understand why design is important, and we can talk about this all day. But that aspect of when you show this project off, when you share it with someone, you want them to see the strong identity. You want them to see something interesting, and branding and UI UX. It's that first impression that gives them, a desire to take a bite out of the apple that is, this community. And so, that's going to be hopefully the biggest change. And whether it changes over time, just having this first pass of design in place, I think is going to really improve the way that you guys are able to communicate it, when you share it to people, when you try to pull people into the community and have them adopt, what we're building here, you'll be surprised at how much easier it is once the branding and the UI UX kind of conveys something more engaging. So,
perfect.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And so maybe if you could, I know you only have about 10 minutes left before you got to go, or 9 minutes left before you got to go. Maybe talk a little bit about your process. Like if you can share like what you look for and the way that you sort of map things out, like just real top level stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So as a company, I mean, we've had a lot of experience kind of, working with design from the ground up. And that's what I'd call this project, right? Like, I think that obviously there's a logo here, there's a color profile, but we're treating this, like a startup design process and attacking everything from the ground up. But the beauty is we have a team, which is, this team that, serves this community so well that like has clearly, and I'll tell you this from my perspective, someone new coming in and learning. I mean, these people here have clearly put the effort in to understand what the community wants, what the community's identity is, how can we reflect the community in this identity. And so we had some good, insights to dig into from day one. We don't always have that. So it's a very fortunate kind of thing that we could start digging into those insights. And so our process starts there, which is especially understanding, what's the current lay of the land, what is the current goals. And, we talked a lot from the initial call about what the project's goals are, what the product roadmap looks like. And I think that really, that's just a direction forward. And allowed us really early on to kind of start having ideas in our head about where we want to take this design, how modern, how colorful, how bold or how tech forward, right? There's a lot of different directions on the compass of branding and design that we can move down. And so I think that we immediately kind of got a good momentum towards that from the initial chats. And from there, our process really kind of stems into a process where we try to play a balance of offering what I call suggestions. As designers, we are here to execute and bring forward solutions, but we also want the decisions to be more democratic, right? We don't want to just come and say, here's exactly what the design direction should be for this brand. We kind of want to take in feedback from the team that's thus kind of being pulled in from the community. And so presenting options is a big part of what we do, and we kind of give suggestions around those directions, right? So we might look at the compass and, say we're moving, northwest. Are we going more north or are we going more west? We'll pull some directions around those, that compass that I think kind of guides for our design direction. And we're that's kind of the step we're at right now. We're iterating forward on those design ideas to come together with a strong brand identity. From the brand identity, we're going to move into really designing in assets for the project from the marketing sites all the way to the UI UX of the application layer, and that's kind of what's next for us. So really, we're digging into a design flow that kind of starts off more experimental, and then once we find tracks to land on, the momentum is going to pick up really quickly because we're going to be really confident because of the work we're doing up front that the design direction is going to hit home. And so, we're stepping into that phase now where we're finding those tracks. We're going to really start moving fast down to kind of start giving you guys things to look at in terms of marketing site assets, the UI UX. And as we, once we deliver this, it's kind of a big V1 run. Once we deliver this first pass, that's when we start to think through you guys' feedback. And that feedback will start to kind of matriculate back into the existing things we designed to improve existing assets, but also looking forward when we do design for new products in the roadmap, that feedback will kind of already be under consideration. We can make sure we're a little bit closer, to the target with each further product we design.
That's perfect. Yeah, I mean, what when you were talking, there was something that really stood out, and it was, just those first V1 versions of things. And we plan on releasing a lot of screenshots to the community. We're going to be really engaging with the community as much as they want to engage with us, to the point that maybe they'll just be like, we get it, guys, you're working on your design. But we want that feedback, right? Because this is, in fact, is a community. We are relying upon you all to let us know what's working and what's not working, what we could be doing better, holes in what we're up to. We want to be able to fill any gaps in order to move forward as a community. And that community aspect is vital, right? And it's going to be vital in my marketing. I'm actually going to be creating a community marketing board What does that mean? I'm going to be inviting people with marketing experience who might have some input to join a marketing board and attend meetings with me from time to time. And we will talk marketing in the community and create initiatives and all sorts of fun stuff. So again, we in fact are building community, right? And we hope that as a part of this community that some of you all, I know lots of folks don't want to quote unquote participate, but we hope that a lot of you do want to participate and you want to show up and you want to engage and be a part of what we're up to over here. So those invitations will be going out pretty quickly. But going back again to what Nafis was talking about and just that psychological component of when people show up on your website, when they show up inside of your applications, when they show up inside of anything that has your brand and all of your brand work present, there is a psychological aspect to that where if they land on a site that doesn't fit what they're expecting from a development company or development community or what have you, then there's this huge disconnect and you lose trust immediately. And it happens in the blink of an eye. Like literally you have about a fraction of a second for them to have an opinion about who you are and what you're capable of. So these things are so important to develop and design properly and well. Your brand, in fact, is telling a story, right? And it kind of points the user in the direction of what you're up to. It guides them. It's almost like a call to action inside of marketing. And that's what we're developing for everyone. And we want to hear from you. We want your support and we want your feedback. So we're going to set up those channels so that you can communicate that. Okay, so Nafis, I know you've got to run. Is there anything that you want to wrap up with, or you can just simply say, peace out, and you can head off to your next thing?
Yeah, no, I mean, that was great. And I mean, I think that I just want you guys to know you guys are in good hands here. I mean, we as a company, we work with, literally hundreds of teams, and there's always a moment where I know that a team that I'm working with just gets it. They get what it takes to, put that foundational work in to design something great, so it ends up with a great product, which ends up with great outcomes for everyone involved with the project. So I wouldn't say that if I didn't, I wouldn't put my name on it and put my word to that if I really didn't feel that. But I genuinely am excited to see all this kind of come forth, and hopefully you guys love the work we do. We can continue to kind of build on these design things with your feedback, and I'm excited to kind of do one of these again soon. But thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here, Nafis. I appreciate it greatly.
Thank you for joining, Nafis.
Take care, Nafis.
Yeah, and as you guys heard Nafis say, he and I have worked together. I have a very long marketing history, predominantly working with startups. I've sat all over. I've sat in corporate. I've sat in brand new startups that are just a handful of people. And Nafis and the teams that he's built since we've known each other has always been my go-to person for UI UX. I've referred pretty much anyone that's ever asked if I knew somebody over to the team at Waker, because what they deliver and how they deliver it, which is equally as important, how they communicate their process of project management, the way they timeline everything out, and how they engage in order to get the questions they need answered, is phenomenal. And it was the reason why I recommended them, and I'm so glad that it worked out, because it's a real pleasure to work with people that simply know what they're doing and then also know how to communicate inside of what they're doing, right? If that makes sense to everybody. And that's what we got with Waker. So we're thrilled that they're a part of this build out, and we're thrilled to attach them to the software that we're developing in the future and the applications that we develop in the future. Just knowing that they're there should hopefully make everybody breathe just a little bit easier, right? So again, Nafis, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. I know you're off the stage and can't respond, but thank you very much. It's been awesome. So with that said, why don't we move over into some of the marketing that we're doing? How are we going to be attracting community? How are we going to bring more people in? We obviously have things to be paying attention to in order to ensure that stability remains, right? And so inside of Web3, as much as I wish that it was as easy as, or quote unquote, easy as marketing a Web2 application, you are in fact very limited with a lot of the things that you can build into these applications. Just tools that I would be used to using, like, hey, Raul, add a viral piece over here or a referral piece over there or what have you. And a lot of that stuff simply isn't possible without getting very creative. So yes, we will be getting very creative. At the same time, our plan is to be developing tools to start to bridge this gap. But none of that is here today. So what do we do today in order to start finding people? So you guys are looking at one of the primary tools that any Web3 company can currently use, especially one that's adamant about their community and making sure that their community have a place to gather and engage. And that's Discord. So a lot of changes are going to be coming to our Discord. Look, I've never been a Discord person. However, it is a very powerful tool once you learn all of its intricacies. So for those of you that may have a marketing background, you understand the concept of sales funnels. For those of you that have never heard the term sales funnel, just know it's when you put marketing out into the world. Say it's a paid ad that shows up on Google or Facebook. Somebody clicks on that ad and then they go somewhere inside of your domain. So they land on a landing page. Well, from there, they are what's technically called top of funnel. And a company's job, especially if they're selling something, is to have assets in place that move that prospect down the funnel. And as they get further and further to the bottom of the funnel, they're closer and closer to that objective. So it could be an objective like buying a product. Let's say I ran an online shoe company and I sell my own shoes. Well, when they get to the bottom of the funnel, they should be buying shoes if that's what that particular sales funnel is for. Another sales funnel could be, you know what, I just want to gather email addresses because my goal right now is to build a list of potential customers. I sell a very expensive product. It's $10,000. That's a much longer sales cycle than a pair of $60 shoes. Well, what is it going to take me as a marketer to convey what it is that my product does for $10,000 and convince them that they absolutely need it? Like it's the thing that's going to solve the problem that they're having right now, right? So we follow these same principles no matter where we're marketing. So if I'm marketing in Web 2 or if I'm marketing in Web 3, it's going to be the same type of a plan. However, bottom of funnel for us right now is community. Wouldn't it be nice to have 10,000 more people inside of Discord, communicating, sharing the vision, participating in marketing, participating in growth conversations, working with Simon, working with Raul as he opens it up for more developers? That is 100% of our marketing effort right now. Putting a new brand on ourselves, getting our community growing, and educating people on what it means to currently invest in a node, right? We look at the nodes like they're community-funded accounts, right? These community-funded accounts, yes, you pay to get one. The majority of that initial investment isn't going anywhere, right? You're buying your account. The fees are almost like a crowdfunding venture for us, right? So every time you pay your fees, a little bit of money goes into the treasury so that we can expand as a company. The reason why, it's a perfect break for this actually, the reason why I personally decided to join Audicity versus other options, which were also on my plate, is the ethics of the company. So the first thing they offered to do for me was to not pay me. And then I accepted that, right? And then they offered not to give me any founders tokens, and I accepted that. And they offered not to give me any nodes, and I accepted that as well. So what did they offer me? Well, they offered me an opportunity to build a community, and that's the offer that I accepted. So I'm here currently having been paid $0 to do the work that I'm doing. And I will continue to do that until there's room in the budget to give a CMO level salary, right? And that's the agreement. That right there told me everything that I needed to know inside of, do I even want to explore this any further? Simon and I did know each other relatively casually through some of the XRP groups that I was a part of. His voice notes made him famous inside of some of those groups. He's a very, very smart guy who has more integrity in the space than I've seen, right? He also will self-admittedly admit that he's sort of anti-capitalist, meaning he doesn't do much for money, right? And that's pretty impressive. I was like, okay, sure you are. That's a great piece of marketing, right? Prove it to me. But over time, he has in fact proven it to me that that actually is who he is at his core. And to me, that's where I wanted to plant my flag and to build. So I chose a venture to build that didn't have any gimmicks, any hypes. I am not a hypey marketer. If you go and read any of the copy that I've ever written in my life, it is not filled with exclamation points, bold bullshit promises, right? I just will not do it. It goes against everything that I stand for. Because I believe there is a way to market things, make it just as exciting without being a shill, right? And I know shill's popular in crypto, but that's not my point. All of these things led me to say, look, this is the place that I need to be, right? And so here we are. Now we're building, and we're building with limited funds, right? So how do we solve the limited funds issue? Well, we need to have community initiatives. We need to put together campaigns that go out and find new users. A common misconception is that Twitter is the only place where active crypto communities live. And while that's true, it's not true for where do your new users live, right? So we're looking at what types of audiences can we be targeting, and what is it that we need to be saying to them in order to engage them and pique their interest. And all of that early foundational work is now currently being done. So we're doing competitive analysis, audience research, the who and the where, right? Who are they? Where do they currently sit? And what are the low-hanging fruit? Low-hanging fruit in marketing is not a derogatory term. It just means where is the easiest entry to find your best customer? Those are your low-hanging fruit audience members. So find them where they're at and put a well-crafted message in front of them and push them into your sales funnel, which we just talked about, will bring them over into Discord. And once they get into Discord, then they enter a period which we affectionately call indoctrination. All that means is doing all of the telling about who you are, your core values, your mission statement as a company, what it means to invest into a node, what it means to be a part of this particular community, and why we want to separate ourselves from anything having to do with buy a node, generate passive income. Because that's not what's happening here, right? We are not a passive income platform. We are not set up. We're not out of centralization yet. We're not ready to go. There's not utility inside of the token currently, right? So how can there be passive income which coming to you, because passive income is the result of an ecosystem that is complete. So we're moving towards passive income. But if I was a fundraiser, meaning I ran a financial fund where I come to you as an investor and say, give me $1 million and I'll go and invest it into the companies that I care about, that I think have a chance of generating a good return. If I was doing that and you were my prospective investor, I would ask you to give me a minimum of 14 months. Give me 14 months, because not only do I need to raise all of the money, but then I need to go out and source the companies that I would like to put money into. Well, you're doing the exact same thing here. You, in fact, are investors, right? You have put money into a crowd fund. And now, rather than us going out and investing in other companies or buying other companies or any of the options available to a fund, you're actually investing in the future development of products that we're developing in-house. I personally believe that's very exciting, right? Because not only are we holding on to control, and we've seen the investments that other organizations have made, and I wish I would have had a say in that, because it's certainly not choices I would have made, right? But over here, we maintain control. We bring in our developers. The community gets to talk about what's being built or features that might be a benefit be added on and on. And we can't do any of this, attracting new investors, raising the amount of money coming in through the fees in our ecosystem and our crowdfunding, without effective marketing, right? So with that said, I haven't looked at the questions channel. Are there any questions, or should I'll just go over there and read it. Let me see. So do we have any logo prototypes? and I see Simon's answering, but I will go ahead and sort of answer these from my perspective as well. No, we don't have any logo prototypes. We aren't quite there yet. We are dealing with style guide, right? So what is a style guide? A style guide is basically like a one sheet, a one pager that breaks down what are your fonts, what are your color, what's your color skews, all of those hex codes that come inside of, picking the colors, building all of that out. We're just getting what all of the internal team feel would be the best fit for us. And then once we have all of that, then the brand direction on things like logo will start to come. Okay, so why aren't we on Telegram? We will be, Bamba, we will be on Telegram. Right now, we are spinning up the channels that we can effectively manage. And, we've seen a lot of communities on Discord and Telegram simultaneously, and then they can't keep up with their Telegram, so they shut it down or just make it read-only where nobody can communicate. They can only just get announcements. So Telegram might be an announcement channel for us first, and then it might grow into a fully managed community with moderators, but we don't have those resources right now. And again, that might be where a community initiative around moderators and people stepping up who want to support us and help, sort of as an intern or whatever role we decide to come up with. There's going to be ways for you to plug in, and the more people that plug in and help and can commit to a little bit of time, the more things that we can actually do as a community. But understand that even that is time for us. We would need to manage that. We would need to build it, find the people, make sure they're showing up, on and on. So opening up a single channel and installing one new person in there is a big time commitment. So we have to weigh what's a good use of our time. Is it opening up more channels as a small community, or is it finding more community members, right? So for us, finding more community members is more important than just having Telegram versus Discord and on and on. But we want it. We absolutely want it. And we will get there. It's just a question of when and what makes sense for us as an organization. A lot of my role is protecting everybody's time. Inside of marketing, there's a lot of ideas. Oh, we can try this, we can try that. And through years over, decades long experience here, going on 15 years, I've seen things that work and I've seen things that don't work. And all I can do is make my best guess, because there's really no right answers in marketing, right? All there are is experiments where you're trying to remove your own opinion from those experiments. Opinions about whether or not this initiative is going to work or this campaign is going to work. All we can do is say, you know what, we'll let the data tell us, right? Okay, so let's see. Is there any other questions? I'm just going to try and read down here.
I don't think there are, to be fair.
There's not? No. And it's a lot of chat, so... guys, what would be helpful is in the AMA, if you have a question, just to go ahead and put a reaction to it with like a question mark underneath it. And then that way we can just use that as kind of our tagging. That'd be good. And in the future, we'll have someone organizing questions and sending them through our back channels. That'll work as well.
My bad. I'm just responding to people as the sort of...
It's perfect. So are there any questions about what we're doing inside of marketing? I mean, I can talk marketing for literally years. We can have this conversation forever and ever.
He isn't lying.
What's that?
He isn't lying at all. He literally can.
Yeah. So we can certainly chat all things marketing, but I would love some questions as opposed to me just prattling on, because I will often forget the point I'm trying to make and I'll tangent and I'll end up all over the place, and nobody wants that.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So there's a couple of things that this is as good a platform as any sort of type thing. So as Dave says, Discord's a main platform for us. It hasn't really grown since the pre-sale. It's been stuck at around this 300 members, and Dave's cooking up initiatives and ideas and stuff's coming down the pipeline, and all that you'll see as it grows out. From my point of view, from like the original me and Raoul having a conversation of we wanted to do something different, to Sam joining the team, to Jane joining the team, to Dave then joining the team, to Waker then joining the team. All of this is development. And I know people don't look at it as development and just look at like an addition, but it is a development. So because every person and every single thing that you add to a team adds to what you can develop as a team. So Dave can develop marketing strategies that I could never dream up. Waker can develop UX and UI and how things look better than I can dream them up, because that's what they do for their job day in, day out. They have hundreds of clients and they specialize in what looks good, and they go into competitive research in the market. So they will look at all the other projects and they'll see what everybody else is doing. They will see their engagement. They will see what works and they will see what doesn't work. And it allows the team to focus on their individual things very effectively. And as Dave says, his effectiveness is managing time. And we butt heads. Sometimes I'll want to do something, Dave. No, it's do this instead. And 9 times out of 10, I'll actually see the benefits of what he's saying. But all of this is just a growth from a community point of view, which is what this actually is. It is a very community-driven project from the ground up to the start. And we haven't actually started yet. So we came out with an MVP and we haven't even got our fully live product. And it's really exciting to see growth, because when we talk about showing development, what we're in the process of doing now, taking us from an MVP to our fully first V1. And you will see that growth and you will see that development, which will give you an indication of how we can move forward as a community and what we can achieve. I am an idealistic person at heart, and I am. So there's no question about it. I am the biggest idealist you'll ever meet, because I envision a community of complete interaction and this complete coherence between the development and the community and the direction and everybody winning. And it's an unrealistic approach, but I'm going to strive for that, because even if it's an unrealistic approach, if I push as hard as I can, then I'm going to get as close to that as I can. Now, obviously, not everybody's going to be happy, and not everybody's going to agree, and not everyone's going to take the same things away from a product. But if there's a centralized coherence, then as many people as possible are going to start to look at it. One of the first things I want people to start to look at is what sets the rules in a community. I want to ask this question to create engagement, because we all live in individual countries. So I can't buy a gun. Dave can go out and buy a gun. So we all have different rules depending on where we live. And I don't understand why protocols have the same rules across the board, or there is an accepted status quo within a decentralized community. And what sets the rules in a decentralized community is the community. So you can set whatever rules you want. You can think as far outside the box, you can apply rules, and you can start to think differently. And that's all I want our community members to do at the moment. I want them to look at what's possible and how we get there, and how we can govern and how we can set standards for ourselves, as well as what the team can bring to us. And that's really my take on it. I'm super excited with how everything's going at the moment. I'm learning lots of new stuff. Dave's introduced me to new tools. So Raoul's blowing my mind with some of the stuff that he's coming up with. So Jane's working. She's doing series on sort of how we effectively cope. And Sam is dealing with lawyers. And everyone's actually blowing my mind at the moment for the amount of effort that they're putting in. And I know none of this effort shows. And that's the big thing with patience, because you don't see it. And we've all been here before when project founders are sitting there and they're saying, yeah, we're doing the work and we're doing this and we're doing that. And all we can do is say exactly the same. All of this is going on. But the only way that we can show it is in with the growth of the protocol. And that will come over time. But the difference is we're going to take your direction and we're going to share our progress as we go through. And we're going to involve you as much as possible, because this is your protocol. And you deserve the right to have a say in your protocol. And that's me being idealistic. And as soon as we get there, we'll share. And as soon as we get there, we'll share. We won't rush and break stuff, but we'll do things as fast as humanly possible, and we'll just do things as well as we can do them. I think that's me.
That's perfect. Like, I mean, it's perfect. And the community component, a little bit of history real fast. When I was first talking to Simon about this and he was explaining what was being built, right? Because I wasn't up to date on what Audicity was and what their mission was. And he explained to me the node side of things and the community funding and the grassroots. And I immediately, again, protecting time, because that's where my brain goes, say, are you sure that that's what you want to do? Right? Like, is there any way to dial that back? And first of all, no, there's no way to dial it back, but it wouldn't have mattered, right? Because look, we're professional people. We've been in our spaces, our respective spaces for a long time. I have a lot of VC contacts. I'm sure most of the team have VC contacts. It could have been VC funded, right? We could have gone the VC route and just followed that exact launch roadmap. We could have. And that was not of interest to anybody inside of Audicity, right? So once I wrapped my head around that, and then I genuinely started getting excited by what Simon was talking about, I'm like, okay, well, and I started to see it, right? And once you see it and you get it for yourself, it becomes distinct. It's a distinct type of learning that you get. And suddenly I was very connected to this big future, right? This future of applications that had been built and a thriving community and a token with utility that's being utilized inside of all of the tools that we're using. This ecosystem that was in fact owned and created by a community and their generosity inside of the node protocol, right? Them seeing our vision and deciding to put their trust in us. And I saw that. And I saw events. I live out in the Vegas area, like, come on out to Vegas. Let's put on an event. Let's do a convention. Let's bring the Audicity community together. Let's do the after party at Dave's house and you can come and hang out with us, on and on, right? Like, I started to get very excited about this idea of community because community has always excited me in the past, right? I've always built communities around what we've marketed. When I was much younger, I wanted to build a coffee shop, like a local coffee shop, because I thought it would be really wonderful to have people come and just hang out with me every day. I thought that would be cool. So this is the vision, Simon's vision, Raul's vision, that they imparted on me and that I got enrolled and excited in, right? And now I'm here saying the exact same thing. And that's a perfect example of bringing community in and indoctrinating them into your vision and giving them an opportunity to say, yes, I'm interested, or no, I'm not, and being fine with whatever it is, right? A lot inside of marketing is, in fact, polarization. A smart marketer will be polarizing, not offensively, not to incite or to enrage, but getting that your offering is not for everybody. And to put it in front of people that will like it, knowing that lots of people won't. You're not, as a company, trying to be all things to all people. You're not offended because somebody doesn't want to participate. In fact, when people are choosing vocally not to participate, you're doing your job. If that makes sense. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We get what's in our way. We understand we're a structure and a format that can be very easily collapsed with a structure and a format that's just responsible for a lot of people and on this team getting hurt financially in this space. And we said we can do it better, and we are, right? So you guys really are, just like Simon said, we haven't even started yet. They put up the MVP, we put up the MVP in order to give our community and our future community an opportunity to participate. Not because we were ready. This was the only order that we can do things. We had to get the funding going and engaging in the community in order to fulfill on the vision and the mission of the company. So it is very different while looking similar, right? It is very different. We're a different place to land. And we hope that, the things that we say engages you and that you're interested in participating, moving forward. And I know for those of you that are here, I'm preaching to the choir, but we hope that you'll share us with other people and let people know what's available to them.
You have a question from Bomber in your...
Yes.
You've actually got two. You've got one from Mokum and one from Bomber, Dave.
Okay. So Mokum asks, what can we do as a community? What can we do as a community sharing in the marketing part, and not just a retweet on Twitter? I've got lots of ideas around that. So what's been effective for me in the past is building what I refer to as a marketing board. So I will create marketing boards. It's like a board of directors, right? And you as a member of the marketing board fill a seat. And there's an expectation that you will show up to meetings and that you will participate. And you may even get homework, right? Things for you to look at, initiatives for us to take. So I will be building a marketing board, right? So there'll be a marketing board that is community sat, meaning it'll be filled with community members who simply want to be on and contribute. And then I will also have my own professional marketing board of professional marketers who have been in this space for a very, very long time, like 10 plus years. And I will fill those with my old Rolodex of folks and enroll them in this idea of what we're doing over here and get a good board going. So the community board will be the fastest way to contribute and to make a difference as far as marketing is concerned. So for those of you that might be interested in joining the marketing board, we will go ahead and, why don't you could just drop it in the Discord chat so that you have a place to put it now. Maybe to say, I'm interested in the marketing board, and I'll go through and read all of those. Or if someone wants to tag me, that would be helpful too. And then from there, we will actually start putting in formal structures. So that would be like one meeting a week or one meeting every 2 weeks or whatever ends up being the most advantageous. Usually schedules on that is you ramp up. You usually start with very regular meetings, and then when you go into more of a plateau or a maintenance period, then you meet a little less often. So in the beginning, it'll be a little more rigorous, most likely, because that's what will help us be effective. And then we will go from there. What we will never ask you to do is to spam. I don't want you to spam. I'm not going to ask you to talk to your friends and family. I'm not going to ask you to put together a list of all the people in your life who deserves to know about us and pick up the phone. Like none of that is going to happen over here. I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. But at the same time, we are in fact going to ask you to participate in some way. So as long as you're able to show up and as long as you're open to doing some outreach, and we'll come up with what that looks like, then the marketing board would be a great place for any community member to fit who's interested, right? And we can take it from there. So yeah, just drop that in the chat. Just say, I'm interested in the marketing board, and then I will reach out to you. I'll send you a DM through Discord, and we can communicate there. If there's any other follow-up, it's Mokum. Just go ahead and drop it back in the same questions channel.
Would you like a channel adding to the Discord, Dave, for a marketing board?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And then we can create a role and start assigning people who are on the board. They'll get their own marketing board badge.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Perfect. And then do we have a team to create graphics videos for the community to share? So as it stands now, no, we don't have a team. We currently have me doing a lot of the initial designing as we go through our branding process. Because again, we don't have a finished, completed brand. We don't have that style guide. We don't even have the colors that we're going to be using. So everything right now is going out. It's just sort of a best guess and using decent design principles. So I'm kind of doing a lot of like the grunty stuff as we figure out what we're going to do to support us. There are services out there. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a company called Design Pickle. They're fantastic. They are almost like onboarding your own design team, and they can do things like graphics and videos, and you can get them trained on your brand. And they're perfect for new startups that have a budget, but not a massive budget to hire a full-time team. So we're looking at organizations like that. Things that we'll also be doing around building out our staff is using virtual assistants. So virtual assistants are assistants that usually sit in a seat. Some of them will be in the US, some of them might be in the Philippines or various places around the world. And these are people who are very, very good at what they do. A lot of times they're sort of like a task rabbit a virtual TaskRabbit for marketing tasks, or really any task that you have and that you can train them in. So something that we are doing as an organization is creating SOPs, which stands for Standard Operating Procedures. These are written documents that actually take somebody from knowing nothing all the way through the completion of a task. So a good example of a task would be Simon's new videos. If you guys haven't noticed, Simon has gotten very committed to creating content, and he's doing it consistently, which deserves a round of applause, by the way. If you all knew how grindy it is to create consistent YouTube content and never stop, it takes something. Burnout is real. And he's really taken on learning. Like literally everything I'm putting in front of him, he's picking it up and coming back to me with questions. And it's refreshing because I have not always had that with the CEOs and the influencers, the personalities that are out in the world creating public content. It takes something, right? It really, really takes something. A lot of times it's like dragging that horse, backwards, your boot heels in the ground. But it hasn't been the case over here, right? So anyways, a perfect example of that though is, well, how do we protect Simon's time? I don't want Simon to become a video editor. I don't want Simon to be a video production specialist. I want Simon to have good audio and good video and very valuable content. At that point, after creating a raw file, one raw video file, that should be the end of his job, in my opinion, right? So how do we deal with this? How do we make it so he has lots of time? Well, we install these VAs, and Simon will create one video, drop it in a folder. That folder has a bell, a whistle, an alarm that goes off every time a new piece of content is added to it, and it gets sent over to the VAs who know exactly what to do, which is editing it down for YouTube, and then taking all of the best bits and editing those up for all of the other platforms that are out there. So that's like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat, all of it, right? So we have to create one piece of content and then syndicate that out in order to have a large swath of content out there in all of the viable channels where people could now find us, right? So setting all of that up. So finding those people, finding VAs can be very challenging. They'll show up one day and disappear the next. Even if you're paying them well and you've communicated great, they just vanish. And so you go from having somebody to not having somebody, like in a blink. So getting all of that going, having our operating procedure documents in place. So if we do lose somebody, we just give the new person the document and make sure that they can get through it. Testing everybody to make sure that they can in fact edit, that they can get everything where it needs to go and it looks good and has a very small amount of typos or what have you, because that stuff is going to happen. Putting all of these things in order for us to grow in place, it takes a lot of time, right? We could just run off to the races and Simon could be editing and I could be, taking on the graphics, and that could be our entire structure, but it's frantic. And now we're in danger of burnout again, right? So we have to lay, again, it's that composability conversation. We have to lay that foundational layer. So that's things like VAs and procedures around what we do when there's video, right? It's all of it. The tools that we're going to use to project manage so that I don't need to reach out to Simon and ask where he's at, because I can just open up my app and see where he's at. Right, getting that going and having everybody learning to use those tools effectively is another commitment to time, right? So all of this is to say that this foundation is in fact being built, that having a team in order to create graphics and videos for the community to share is in place, and that our structure is solid and can scale. And it doesn't rely on me, and it doesn't rely on Simon, it doesn't rely on Sam and Raul and Jane, it doesn't rely on this founders team. That we are in fact building ourselves intentionally, slowly in the beginning, so that we can rapidly scale and be prepared for what happens if we land that perfect interview that ends up in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and Simon goes on as a rock star, and the world is suddenly interested. Well, that would be amazing if we're prepared for that. It would be a disaster that we might not recover from if we weren't, right? So we are trying right now to look at all of that stuff in order to protect you, our community, from an accidental misstep, right? Does that make sense? Okay. So, yeah.
It makes perfect sense. We've all seen what happens when teams don't communicate properly. We've seen what happens when teams pivot because they haven't got a clear focus. So we're at that stage now where we're just creating our clear focus, the branding, the identity, the mission statement, the community cause, all of those values. So once they are the actual rocks and the foundations and everything is built on top of them, then it gives us very clear structure to always point back to. And creating that content to always point back to will save us time moving forward. So then we can concentrate on the further development of the community, the further development of the company, the further development of all the tools we can build. So, and these are all things that Dave and Raul and everyone have been putting together. The two people that deserve the most credit at the moment are certainly Dave and Raul. They are the people that are working on the back end, the front end, the structures. They are the people that are doing all of that grind to give us a home to do things. Like, I wouldn't have my YouTube channel home if Dave hadn't taken the time to develop it. None of you would have a protocol if Raul hadn't taken the time to build it. And none of you would have the things moving forward if Raul wasn't making constant improvements. And Waker and all of the stuff Waker do is a team and collaborative effort. But again, it's Dave and Raul that are at the heart of this. I can create content and I can talk and I can entice people with a conversation and an engagement. And I think I can be relatively engaging when I talk. But I'm just a person that's engaging, and I'm not the person that deserves all the credit here. So the team on a whole, all of them, have been working their socks off, and they all deserve the credit more than I do. So be thankful, because they are like the most committed people I've actually been in the room with.
Appreciate that, Simon. And
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Well, not you, Raul, but yes, thank you, Simon. And something that came up from go ahead.
Jane and Sam, you do a lot of work in the background, an awful lot. Keep me sane anyway.
Yeah, everybody here in the founder circle, if you will, is stepping up and just doing what needs to be done. A very common conversation in our group chats online is telling Raul to stop and to go to bed. And that it's a daily conversation, just go to bed. But, he's suffering from this very serious condition, which is called being excited about what you're working on. And, it's hard to shut off. Like, my background, I actually went to graphic design school because I thought I was going to make a magazine. That was my big dream when I was 18 years old. I was going to build a magazine and I needed to learn how to build it out. And I had no idea what that design background was actually going to do for me. I would sit down in front of Photoshop. Please understand, this is like mid 1990s, and this is Photoshop. It was like 1.0, 2.0, and I could geek out on Photoshop for 8 hours. I'd look at the clock, and then I'd look at the clock again. It'd be 3 hours later, and before you knew it, half a day had gone by. And when you're really enrolled, like when you're really excited about what you're doing, like you're super, super excited about what you're doing, you just give everything to it because it doesn't really feel much like work at all, right? It's just what you're doing because you're connected to that future, right? And that's what is happening over here with all of us. Everybody is getting very connected to what we're building, and we're all excited. And it just, the work at that point becomes very simple to sit down and do, right? So, okay, so I know we said that the AMA would only be about an hour. I want to be mindful of everybody's time. I don't want to keep people here for hours upon hours upon hours. So I am going to get to the promotions that I talked about on Twitter earlier, and just announce a couple of promotions that are going to be coming out in the coming weeks, as well as a promotion for today. We wanted to do something for the people that showed up today. So for the promotion today, as we're going through this rebranding process, something that I personally love and look forward to is merch. I love merch. I wear it all the time. Simon makes fun of my square shirt that I wear to our meetings.
I love your hat, though. I love that.
Yeah, and my hat. My hat is fantastic. But I love merch, and because we're branding, there is going to be a frontline V1 version of all of our merchandise. And so for anybody who would like to win our full gear, whatever that ends up being, hat, hoodie, a full line, our full product line, all I want you to do is come over to the AMA questions and say one quick little blurb about what you liked about today's meeting. And when you share what you liked about today's meeting, you will go ahead and be automatically entered into that. We'll pick a winner. We'll just use maybe like a random number generator and video that. And then whoever wins when our merch is available, we will go ahead and send that over to you. So just into AMA, just say what you liked about today. Could be anything. And we will draw a winner in the next day or so. So there's that. Then the actual big promotions that we're doing. Simon's birthday is coming up. I want to say it is the 4th of October. Is that correct?
The 4th of October.
All right. My memory has...
People actually know it because I posted my passport.
That's why I did not feel bad about saying it out loud. Because normally it's like, no. But, Simon's not worried, so we won't be worried. Okay, so his birthday is coming up. So we are going to do a promotion that is called 40 Nodes in 40 Nights. And what does that mean? It means that every day for 40 days, we're going to be giving away a free node to one of our community members. Somebody is going to win a node every single day, and it's going to be a big promotion. And we're going to be asking things from the community, asking you to share something or to answer a question or to take some sort of an action to solve a math problem. It'll be a lot of fun. Nothing ridiculous. It'll be a lot of fun. But every day we will pick one winner and we'll be giving away one node. So that one's coming up starting on December the 4th. We'll launch it. We'll probably be talking about it and sort of pre-selling it ahead of time, letting everybody know that it's coming. But 40 nodes in 40 nights. We're very excited about that. And then the next promotion is Christmas comes early. So we're going to have Christmas coming early. And again, it's in the world of nodes. So anybody who has an active wallet with us, an active wallet address, whether you got your nodes in the pre-sale, whether you get them today, or whether you get them on December 31st at 11:59 p.m., if you have an active wallet with a node in it, all you need is one, we are going to give you a free node. So every wallet on the chain, and you look, we get it, some people might not want to participate. You will be able to opt out, no problem. But for those of you that would like a free node, simply by being here and having already owned one, you're going to get another one from us. And that's actually live. Technically, it's live from right now, because we will take a snapshot at the time and get all of the wallet addresses from pre-sale until the moment that it closes, and we'll be distributing free nodes that way. So there'll be a lot of information on that. Raul, I know, is going to be building some stuff out. We'll put a process in place. There's literally nothing for you to do yet. Just know that those announcements, structure, whatever we determine is going to be the best and easiest way for everybody to participate, we'll put that in place and we'll let everybody know. So there's that. Those are the two big promotions, and then the merch promotion. I'm going to go ahead and challenge everybody for the free merch because I need a new hat, according to Simon. So that's that. Are there any questions there? It looks like 4 people, right? Good odds. 25%. Good odds, 4 people. Is there any other questions? Looks like Craig is typing in the chat.
Can I invite as well and participate? Or
Of course. And Raul, is there anything that you want to add? Do you want to talk about the development side while we've got some folks here? Do you want to chat about anything, or would you rather set up your own AMA for a later time?
I can set up another AMA, but I will do properly a small sneak peek probably or something like that. I'm currently working on different things regarding security and improvement as of UX in the current site, avoiding network changes and disconnections, and just making sure that everything is as smooth as possible. And then I'm also working on the NFT page where you will be able to mint your soulbound NFTs. So you'll be able to have these, let's say, individual NFT that you will be able to basically have on your address forever, given that it's a soulbound NFT, and that one will give you access to all the future protocols and will give you lovely rights to get specific advantages because you are part of the ecosystem. And yeah, aside of that, just improving the overall security of the contracts and all that stuff. So no, I don't want to get into too much technicals, but working on plenty of things, and as Dave said, overly excited about the things that I'm doing, learning and delivering. So yeah, I love it.
It's perfect. Thank you, Ron.
And I know we're boxing everything off, so I just want to close off with a statement and a question for the community, really. Because it was something that was discussed a couple of weeks ago, and was met with instant resistance, and it's part of my Think Differently campaign. Not to too much topic, but I would love engagement on this, so all feedback on this would be greatly appreciated because it will help me understand quite a lot. When I think about how a community governs, and I think about what has gone wrong in past DeFi and past community projects, and I think about what I said in my original mission statement when the team said that they can do nothing. And it's very right. If the community want the team to stand back and do nothing, then that's great. We'll stand back and we'll do nothing. But I've pitched something to everybody regarding this idea of, at the moment, we have 168 users, and we had 4 users on pre-sale launch. We're in this very unique position that we have a lot of information because it's been this grassroots and this very transparent launch. So it also puts us in a position to actually analyze information very effectively. If 168 people were on a desert island and there is limited rations, and 10 or 12 of those people are eating all of those rations, how would a community govern themselves to stop that happening? Because it's a community rules, and in this protocol, it is community rules. And I'd like people to just be open about thinking differently about how we can protect the majority over looking out for the few. Now, this goes in hand with everything that's been discussed today. Some things the community decides may turn people off. But on the reverse side to that, some things the community decides may actually make the protocol more attractive. Because there is a lot to be said for how a community governs and protects its users. And that can't come solely from the team, and that has to come from a consensus. So I just want people to start to think a little bit and think, actually, we could do things differently, or we could. There isn't a status quo in Web 3.0, but we have got into this mindset of it must be the same, and there is a status quo. So like Dave was saying earlier on, we're having internal discussions on how to move away from the name nodes, because a node represents a stake in a network, and I don't know if it actually necessarily fits. So there's open communication around that. What line could we take? What could they be called? Okay, we know that from the pre-sales, somebody had a maxed investment of $4,000. We know from chain analysis that person has taken $5,000 out of the protocol in 6 weeks. They've had a 20% return on their investment in 6 weeks. We know that they'll continue just to take everything that comes in. Is that acceptable behavior? Do we want that in the community? All of these questions and all of these methods are things that I think about when I think about doing things differently. And again, this is my idealistic views. And if I'm being wildly idealistic and, none of these things can be done, then please, by all means, tell me. But if there is some alignment in actually, we could actually make a change and we could actually stand for something different, then please let me know. That's my finishing quote and my finishing statement. I would like engagement and to have conversations around this and what we could do differently and how we could stand apart. Because I think how we behave is how we stand apart as well. Not just how we look. Everything about us, I want to be different. From the very ground up to how we eventually reach that unicorn company that the actual community have a stake in and actually own. And this is a step-by-step process for me. And I just want some engagement around that.
Perfect. Thank you, Simon. And then the last thing that I will say is just more of my initiatives, just very quickly. A part of my background is managing developing teams, especially in the space of business development. If you don't know what biz dev is, it's sort of a reverse to inbound marketing. Marketing is running an ad, on Facebook, and they just say, hey, I like that t-shirt, and they click on your ad, they come and they buy your t-shirt, right? So they came in, so it's inbound to you. They chose to click on that link. That's a very different type of audience than an outbound approach, which is what business development is. Business development is reaching out cold to people via databases like LinkedIn or places like that. LinkedIn is actually one of the hugest databases in the world, where you reach out and you just let them know that you would like to have a conversation about whatever it is that you do. And most of the time it's very spammy and it's not done very well. They don't, people that build biz dev teams don't build them correctly. They don't have the right people holding the right bricks in order to build the house, right? And there's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? There's an advantageous way to build them that really give you your best chance at success. And so something that I've just started today, and we're waiting to hear back from a particular company, is building out our biz dev team. And so what are we going to use our outreach for? We're going to use it for alliances in the space. We're going to look for developers in the space. We're going to look for investors in the space, people that are interested in this world as an investor. We want to start filling our Rolodex with new people that can support us. But that's actually a great answer to whoever asked the question about what they could be doing to help is, well, we would like Simon to be on more podcasts. We would like Simon to be interviewed by more people. So we would love for Simon to be utilizing other people's audiences in a way that gives them content and that helps us get visibility. So if anybody out there happens to know a podcaster or has a existing relationship with somebody that has a show where their audience would be a natural fit for us, we would love those introductions. So anything that you can do in the world of introducing us to people that we can get in front of would be awesome. Would love that. But that's another one of our big initiatives. So we're going to be obviously doing our traditional campaigns. We're going to be building out all of our marketing foundational pieces like software, marketing boards, all of that stuff. And then also the startup initiatives, which are things like biz dev, which have grown. The biggest companies have grown through their biz dev department. Very little of it is actually their inbound marketing efforts, believe it or not. So that is what we're up to. That's the plan, right? Is to build all these things out and craft the campaigns in order to fulfill on the goals of the company. That's where we're at. And that's me wrapping it up right there. So with that said, I think we could go ahead and call it, but I do see that Charlie Blue is feverishly typing in the AMA questions channel. So no pressure, Charlie Blue, but you gotta make this a good one.
We're waiting for your question.
We're waiting. It'd be really funny if he was just sitting there like smashing keys and he wasn't actually typing anything. All right, incentives over punishment is best policy. Individual draining the pool has no current incentive to hodl. Yes, I concur. Simon, do you want to chime in on incentivizing people to hold?
So, but I mean, we've had the discussions internally, and it's very difficult to offer incentives that can't be gained by an overall. And I'm not even talking about penalties. I'm just literally asking how a community would govern that, how a community would stop it. Because if there's nothing that anybody can do, and I mean, this is the exact reason for the question, was to engage and to find best suit, which obviously this will continue in text format after the AMA, and we'll continue moving forward, because this policy isn't just about people draining the initial liquidity pool. This policy is about how we overall protect and secure our community, because it may be something further on down the line that's completely different to just a liquidity question. And I just want to know if we're going to stick with the status quo, or are we going to try and do things differently? How are we going to monitor, and how are we going to manage, and what sets us apart from other protocols? That's what I want community feedback on more than anything.
Okay, got it. All right. So if there's no other questions, everyone, we can go ahead and call this a successful meeting. Oh, we've got Craig Zerpavert, Desert Island Scenario. Oh, got it. Yep. Okay. For all of those interested, you could go ahead and read Craig's comment.
Yeah. So just continue this conversation in the chat, and I'll pick up with anybody typing. Leave it out the AMA questions and just go into the general chat, and we'll start having a decent conversation about what could be incentives, what could be, we'll start to have those conversations and get the feedback, so we can start to develop and push forward as a team. Perfect.
Yep, and we'll go ahead and we'll get that marketing channel added to Discord, so that anybody who would be interested in joining in some calls and working with me on marketing and just having a voice in that whole conversation, you guys have a place to show up and raise your hands, and then I'll use that channel to post upcoming Zoom meetings. I will typically always meet through Zoom, so we'll be able to hang out face to face. You guys are welcome to not, and I won't force any kind of registration for those of you that are very cautious about anonymity. Not a problem. But we will get all of that set up and give everybody a way to get more involved at a level that they're comfortable with. And then once you get to know me, I hope to encourage you to participate at a level that you may be slightly uncomfortable with. And then maybe I can have a hand in your growth, which I think would be awesome. But you all have a place here, right? You all have a place, and you get to choose as a community how you participate. We would absolutely love for everybody here to really step up and give themselves a role, something that gets them excited, and figures out like how they can participate in just pushing Audicity out into the world and support us as we continue to build. Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you being here. Round of applause to Simon, Raul, Jane, Samantha. Just really fantastic working with everybody, and I'm looking forward to it. And I hope that this was a good introduction to the marketing. I am always available. You can get me on Discord, or you can get me on Twitter. Just reach out, and I will get back to you just as soon as I can.
Wonderful. Well, take care, guys, and we'll speak soon.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.